Hello, everyone. My name is Raven, and welcome back to Raven Gaming Labs. And I just wanted to post another update over the weekend. I'm sure everyone's seen it, but I figured I'd go on ahead and post an update for those of you that haven't. And that is the Unity fiasco gets, even better. Um, and there's quite a bit to cover, but I don't want to make another half-hour long video, so this will just be a short video. So the first thing is that Azure Games, they created this website, and I'll put a link to it in the description. And so far, over 424 companies have signed it. I think they did this on Wednesday or Thursday. So the number of companies that have joined, and basically what they did is it's a signed letter by more established studios, the ones making millions or tens of millions of dollars every year. And a lot of them are major, mobile developers, which are the ones that are most affected by this anyway. And there's quite a lot here that you can read. You know, like right here, to claim as Unity has that this new runtime fee will impact only 10% of the industry is not just misleading, it's patently false. Which, that is completely true. But there's a lot here. But basically, the short version of it is that 424 have come out in public support, and they've turned off IronSource and Unity ads completely. And, that's over 20 billion total game installs between all 424 of them. And this is a big deal. Because for those of you that don't know, Unity does not make most of its money from the game engine. They make most of their money through the Unity ads program that they have. And this is a massive deal. I mean, can you imagine, like, even if they stay the course, which they're not, but we'll get to that in a second. From now until January 1st, they're getting zero ad dollars. And they were, 424 of these people were using Unity ads, 20 plus billion game installs. I mean, Azure Games is pretty big. Voodoo is pretty big. I don't play a lot of mobile games, so I honestly don't know most of these developers here. And you can see the whole list. I mean, it's huge. But the point is that this is immediately and directly impacting Unity from a financial standpoint. As well, last Thursday, I believe, they brought Unity insiders to the Unity home office. I don't know which office. Might have been a series of offices. I don't know. But a couple Unity insiders talked about it on Twitter and on the Reddit, that they were brought in. They brought up these concerns. They were apparently only informed 24 hours prior to the announcement. So if you remember in the original blog post, they said, we brought it up to our, biggest, users, referring to companies that make, many millions with Unity. And they were fine with it. They understood, blah, blah, blah. It's like you gave them 24 hours of notice. Like, they made it seem like, they brought him in for like a month in advance or something. No. They gave him 24-hour notice, apparently. And apparently Unity did listen. But the C-suite and everyone underneath the C-suite apparently see things very differently. And that was another big thing, because the Unity employees had to push for the Unity Insiders meeting, because the C-suite the C-suite guys, like the CEO, the vice president, people on the board, etc. They were not interested in talking to the Unity Insiders again. They had already told them about it, and that was that. It baffles and blows my mind. The other big thing, as many people have pointed out, is that Unity changed its EULA in terms of service back in April and didn't notify anyone, and they took out the part where like you could keep your license and all this fun stuff. And that's really not very legal in a lot of countries. I mean, it's a really gray area. Like, they're allowed to change it, but even in the United States, I know a lot of people like to joke like we don't have GDPR and stuff, but we do have contract law. And so you are technically legally entitled to your previous contract. Now, that might mean that like you're forced backwards, you can't use a newer revision of Unity or whatever. But the big problem is like Unity, once it auto starts, you auto accept the license agreement. So it's kind of like a tricky area, because it's not like you can just say, well, no, I reject it, I'll just continue using this version. It's like if you want to open up the editor and there's like a license change, they're going to want you to accept the new license. And If you hit that, well, you agreed to it. If you didn't read it, well, that's your problem. But if you had hit decline, you probably couldn't have gotten into the editor. So I don't know. That's a real gray area if you ask me. And then you get to this beauty, where Unity apologized yesterday, and I put that in big giant quotes with like underscores and stuff. So let's just read what they put. We have heard you. We apologize for the confusion and angst the runtime policy we announced on Tuesday caused. We are listening, talking to team members, community, customers, and partners, and will be making changes to the policy. We will share an update in a couple of days. Thank you for your honest and critical feedback. Okay, here's my problem with this. First off, confused? No. This is the equivalent of a husband who kicks his wife down the stairs and then says, oops, I'm sorry. Or if you guys have ever seen like the that South Park episode where, Cthulhu is, invading and BP oil, drilled in, and they cause that big oil spill. I think it was back in like 2009, 2010. And South Park did that little joke where, the president of BP is like, we're sorry. But not actually sorry. More like, we're sorry that the bad thing happened, but, whatever. That's kind of how I view this. This is not an honest apology, in my opinion. Because, yes, there was some confusion, but this is kind of worded like everyone was confused and didn't understand what they were doing. No, we totally understood what you were doing, and we disagreed with it. I don't even use Unity. I haven't used Unity professionally since 2013, 2014, something like that. I moved on, changed what I work on and tools and stuff, but I still sort of kept up to it. And, for those of you that know me a bit more personally, you know that I do not like Unity. I find so many fundamental flaws with the engine, but it is a valid option for an enormous amount of people, and it is a great learning tool for an enormous amount of people. So I don't want to see it go away. I just want to see it get fixed. And we're just talking about the engine in general, none of the legal crap. But this, how do you repair your brand after this? This is a total nukage of your brand, and now you're just like, oh, we're sorry we got caught. No. So, I don't know. We'll see. But then, Bloomberg. So, Bloomberg has an article, and in this article, it says, Unity overhauls controversial price hike after game developers revolt. Keep in mind, they're referring to this. This is what they are most likely referring to. Because I have to be honest, typically Unity does not care at all about the hobbyists. They make very little money off them. These guys, on the other hand, a lot of them probably have enterprise licenses for hundreds of employees or even just tens of employees. There's a lot of money every year coming out of these guys. There's ad revenue coming out of them. They might be using other services that cost money. These guys are expensive. Like, losing them is a big deal, in particular because Unity is actually very hurt for money due to bad management, not because of capitalism or all the other ridiculous garbage I've seen for why Unity is doing bad. No, Unity has bad management, really bad management. They bought and merged with companies that have not produced money. The IronSource merger cost $4.4 billion. I don't know how long it's going to take to get that back, but I think the AppLovin or whatever would have been a better deal, particularly for shareholders. But, Unity AppLovin would have bought Unity. So they didn't want that. They wanted to be the top dog and, own the ad company, not be owned by the ad company, which, fair enough. On the other hand, AppLovin was going to give them $20 billion. So, a lot of money there. But then, you have the Weta purchase where they bought the tooling from Weta Digital or Weta FX or whatever. They did not buy the company. They bought the tooling. And, well, they sort of bought the company. It gets a little strange, to say the least. But basically, they bought the tooling. And I don't know anyone that's even using this. Maybe there's people out there that are using this stuff. I really honestly don't know. I never see it talked about. Look at this. This says 42,000 followers. This says 81. Honestly, I was expecting Unity to have way more followers. I was going to make a point about, the massive follower distance. But I guess they just don't have a very big presence for whatever reason. on Twitter, which is fair. But I mean, I personally I don't know anyone that uses it other than maybe Weta themselves. But you know, they're I guess licensing it from Unity. It's kind of weird. Um, but I just view this as a terrible purchase. Like the engine had enormous amount of fundamental problems, like long startup times, crashing during startup, numerous bugs between the editor, the engine, all sorts of stuff. It was starting to lag further and further behind Unreal in features and performance. Like that's the stuff that you dump money into. And like I understand, like, you know, diversifying, you know, your portfolio, you know, in this case, you know, where you get your income from is very important. But you can't just buy companies and magically turn them into money. That is not how that works. You can't do that. So with this Bloomberg article, effectively, this is the probably most important part. Unity will limit fees to 4%. So they're still going through with the fee crap, but 4% of a game's revenue making over 1 million, and they haven't specified, so I assume it's 1 million per calendar year, whereas Unreal is 1 million per quarter. So, but you will cap at 4%, and you will self-report. As well, it will not retroactively affect installs. See, that was another really big point. It's not going to retroactively hit you. So, because, you know, like there's some big titles out there that have like, you know, millions and millions and millions of installs. And all of a sudden, like, okay, now they have to start paying money because they were successful in the past. Like, get out of here. So now it's only going forward. So this is a significant improvement. I think they should have just done 4% of revenue or even like a scale. So like the more you make, the less you pay kind of thing. Or, you know, like a tiered scale where, you know, X amount is worth this percentage or whatever. I mean, it's still kind of confusing. I kind of prefer just a flat 4%. But, you know, with that said, this is much better. This is much better. This is what it should have been. This was probably a backup plan, assuming they even had one. And then, of course, you know, they had the credible death threat, which I'm going to move on because that was made by a Unity employee, and there's been no information since. It just kind of appeared and then disappeared. So I'm kind of like, well, all right. Like, I couldn't find any police report of an employee being arrested. And, you know, if you're making credible death threats against an entire company and its staff, you think there would be at least a police report of some kind. And, you know, they called the San Francisco police and it was like at a different police station and they couldn't get a hold of the police or something in that area. And I'm just like, what? I don't know. I'm not saying that the death threat before anyone, you know, attacks me is not credible or that they, you know, shouldn't, you know, do things to, you know, prevent it and all. You know, you should never make death threats. That should be common sense to anyone that's an adult. However, with that said, we also live in the age of sensationalism and believing before facts come out and all sorts of other stuff. So, you know, I'm just going to skip it and ignore it. I probably, yeah, too much on that. Plus, there's other stuff to talk about. Like, you know, there's their crappy apology again. Mark Whitten, a Unity executive, said the company hasn't yet announced the latest changes because executives are still running them by partners and don't want to repeat last week's communication debacle. Man, calling it a debacle is like a freaking understatement. Also, this was another big issue right here. One of the most controversial elements of the policy concerned how Unity would track installs of its software. Although the company first said it would use proprietary tools, Whitten said Monday management will rely on users to self-report the data. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, here's the thing. The proprietary tools part, I don't know how they were going to do that without basically making spyware. I stand by that original statement. I know some people told me it wouldn't be spyware, but I mean, you're literally having to store information about people. And yeah, there's ways to anonymize certain stuff, but in order for it to be truly effective, you're going to have some kind of fingerprint of the user's devices, machines, and various other stuff so you can check it and cross-reference and all sorts of other, you know, things that we need to go into it. And I just don't see it being possible without making literal spyware. And that poses a lot of problems in both the United States, Canada, Europe especially with GDPR. But, you know, California has CPPA or something like that. I forget what it's called. But it's basically the same thing as GDPR. So it's like, and they operate within California. So they definitely, like, their headquarters is there. So they absolutely have to be very careful of that, and I have no idea how they were going to do it. That was probably when the executives talked to the developer, and the developer probably looked them square in the face and was like, yeah, that's really not possible. Not to do it the way you guys were talking about anyway. I mean, it's possible to do it. It's just, you know, you got to be breaching a lot of trust there. And, you know, then Resetelio, I don't actually know how to say his name. I apologize. He's still claiming that 90% of users won't be affected. I call bullshit on that. I actually think more like 40% of developers won't be affected. I think the vast majority would, because there were so many edge cases that they did not take into account. It was also the fact that it was a huge fee hit for some people. Like, I think only like the top 1% would have made like it would have been less than 5% of their revenue. For most mobile developers, it was going to hit like 20% of their revenue, which is just, or at least, you know, based on their estimates. There was a graph going around, which is what I base all this on, but I can't find it. I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. And it's like, that's more expensive than Unreal. That's significantly more expensive. And you get tons of free stuff with Unreal. Oh, well. I don't think there's, you know, I will agree with him here. I don't think there's any version of this that would have gone down a whole lot differently. Yeah, I mean, if you had announced a revenue share, people would have went, well, this sucks. But they would have went, fine, whatever. You know, it's 4%. It's 1% less than Unreal. However, it's per year, not per quarter. So, you know, that 1 million per quarter really does add up. I mean, you effectively, if you go over every year, you effectively get 4 million every year. That's royalty free. That's a substantial amount of money. So, you know, it is something to consider, if you will. Now, obviously, you know, if it was, you know, 1% makes a huge difference, by the way, if you do the math. But even still, it's like Unreal just has a superior tool set, bunch of other stuff. They've, you know, say what you want about Unreal in the Epic Store, but when it comes to the engine, they have breached no developer trust in ever that I can think of. You know, they've done some controversial things with the store and all, but that has nothing to do with the engine. The engine is just like, yeah, 5%. Here's source code. Use it. Do whatever. By the way, you can stay locked on, you know, one version forever and ever and ever if you want. Like, it's pretty well written, and it's pretty nice. So, yeah. So I don't know how this is all gonna go. But I might end up doing another article on, not another article, another video on this. But this will probably be the last video on it. But yeah. We'll see. Anyway, everyone, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell. And if you'd like to support this channel and all the content and all the fun stuff that I do, you can support me over at Patreon, or you can support me over at YouTube and become a member. Links to both in the description. And I will see you all in the next one. Y'all have a good one. Hey everyone, thanks for watching Raven Gaming Labs. Thanks to all the members and viewers who make RGL possible. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell so that you can be notified. If you want to become a member, hit the join button or link in the description below. Members get early access to videos, member-exclusive content, and more. As well, don't forget to join our awesome community over at Discord. Y'all have a good one.